There's a moment some people know too well. It's when you're sitting right next to someone, maybe laughing, maybe sharing something small, and yet there's a sentence stuck somewhere in your chest that never makes it out. Not because you don't know what to say, but because something inside you quietly decides, not now. And it happens again and again. You tell yourself you'll say it next time, when the moment feels right, when things are a little clearer, when you're more sure. But somehow, that moment never arrives. And from the outside, it looks simple. People might say he's just shy or unsure, or maybe he just doesn't feel that strongly. But people who live inside this hesitation know something else is happening. Because it's not the absence of feeling. It's often the opposite. It's feeling too much and not knowing where to put it. There's a strange kind of silence that forms when emotions become too real. Not weak, not broken, just carefully held back. And at some point, that silence becomes a pattern where he starts measuring every word before it leaves his mouth, where even a simple confession begins to feel like a permanent decision, like saying it would change everything. Because in his mind, it does. There's something deeply human about wanting to protect a connection before it's even fully formed, to keep things safe, predictable, unbroken. And sometimes, not confessing feels safer than risking what might happen after. Because what if it changes how she looks at him? What if the ease between them disappears? What if everything becomes complicated? So instead, he stays where it's familiar, where he can still talk to her, still be around her, still have access to something that feels close enough to what he wants, even if it isn't quite it. Some people even rehearse the confession in their head, over and over, choosing the perfect words, imagining her reaction, then deleting the whole thing before it ever happens. Almost like the moment only exists safely in imagination. There's also a quieter fear underneath all of this, one that doesn't always show itself clearly. It's not just fear of rejection, it's fear of what rejection might confirm. Because confessing doesn't just reveal feelings, it exposes identity. It asks a question that feels much bigger than it sounds. Am I someone worth choosing? And that question can feel heavy. He might not even consciously think it, but his nervous system feels it, and it responds by keeping things contained. There's a pattern psychologists have observed in people who hesitate like this. Something Carl Jung once touched on in his ideas about the shadow, the parts of ourselves we don't fully feel safe expressing. Sometimes, it's not the emotion that's difficult. It's being seen having that emotion, especially if somewhere in the past, vulnerability didn't feel safe, if expressing feelings led to embarrassment, or dismissal, or being misunderstood. The brain learns something simple. Keep it in. Stay controlled. Don't risk exposure. And over time, this becomes automatic. He might even come across as calm, detached, unbothered. But internally, there's a constant negotiation happening. Say it. Don't say it. Say it. Not yet. And the longer this continues, the harder it becomes. Because now it's not just about the feeling. It's about the time that has passed without saying it. The weight of all those unsaid moments. The idea that maybe it's too late now. So instead of moving forward, he stays still. And sometimes, he convinces himself that staying silent is the right decision, that maybe this is more mature, more controlled, more respectful. But beneath that logic, there's often something softer, something more vulnerable, a desire to be chosen without having to ask, a hope that she'll somehow just know, that she'll see it in the small things, the way he listens, the way he shows up, the way he notices details others don't. And sometimes, he'll do things that almost reveal it, but not completely. Like getting a little quieter when she talks about someone else, or remembering something small she said weeks ago, or typing a message and then deleting it. Those almost moments, where the truth gets very close to the surface and then disappears again. If you've ever noticed yourself doing this, you're definitely not alone. And if you enjoy exploring these quiet patterns of human psychology, subscribing to the channel helps more people discover these insights. There's also an interesting contradiction here, because people who struggle to confess their feelings often understand emotions very deeply. They notice tone, timing, subtle changes in behavior. They feel things with precision. But that same awareness makes risk feel larger, because they can imagine every possible outcome, every shift in dynamic, every awkward silence that could follow. So instead of acting, they analyze, and analyze, and analyze, until the moment passes. And then later, they replay it, thinking about what they could have said, what they almost said, what they'll say next time. There's also a kind of emotional discipline in this behavior, a belief that feelings should be controlled, that acting on them too quickly is reckless. So he waits for certainty, for clarity, for the perfect timing. But emotions don't always follow perfect timing. They move, they change, they respond to moments. And sometimes, by the time everything feels right, the moment has already shifted. And that can create a quiet kind of regret. Not loud, not dramatic, just a subtle awareness of something that almost happened. There's another layer that often goes unnoticed. Sometimes, not confessing is also a way of preserving possibility. Because as long as nothing is said, nothing is lost. The connection exists in a kind of open space, undefined, untested, still full of potential. But once it's spoken, that potential becomes real, and real things can be accepted or rejected. So silence keeps the possibility alive, even if it also keeps it unreal. Modern behavioral research and even ideas from Thinking, Fast and Slow suggest that humans often avoid decisions that feel irreversible. And for someone like this, confession feels irreversible. It feels like stepping into something that can't be undone. So the brain delays it, not out of weakness, but out of protection. Protection of identity, protection of connection, protection of emotional stability. And yet, there's a quiet strength in this pattern too, because it shows depth, sensitivity, awareness, the ability to feel something fully without rushing it, the ability to care deeply, even if that care stays unspoken. But like most psychological patterns, it comes with a trade-off, because while it protects from rejection, it also blocks the possibility of being chosen. And over time, that can create a feeling that life is happening just slightly out of reach, like watching something meaningful from a distance, close enough to feel, but not close enough to experience fully. And maybe the most surprising part is this: people who struggle to confess their feelings are not incapable of love. If anything, they might experience it more intensely than most. They just haven't fully learned that expressing it is part of experiencing it, not the end of it. Their mind didn't create this hesitation randomly. It learned it, adapted it, refined it over time to keep them safe in moments that once felt uncertain. So this isn't a flaw, it's a pattern, a very human one. And like all patterns, it carries both protection and limitation, which means it can be understood, not judged. There are many quiet patterns like this hidden inside human behavior. And sometimes, just recognizing them is the first step to seeing yourself a little more clearly. If this felt familiar, there may be other parts of your inner world quietly waiting to be understood.